Likewise.
Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show.
Janet, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you.
Yes, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Let's jump straight into it. What's the story, Janet? What got you into executive coaching and leadership?
Oh, wow. I'm sure I wasn't a child that said, oh, I want to be an executive coach. I don't think I even knew what that was, right? I think like many of the best things in life, I came upon this field by accident. Let me start. Right after I got my graduate degree, I started working for a financial services company, and they were doing a startup, and they were training everybody. And for some reason, I got tapped on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you seem to be pretty good at this work. We're going to tap you to train people." So I fell into the training development area. And what was really great about this experience was it was at the time, this was, the mid 90s, right? So GE was like talked about a lot in the leadership development space. And all of the executives at this startup of this large company had come from GE. So I felt like I was in a training ground of leadership development, learning and development. And then my career just boosted from there. And I worked for 4 different Fortune 100 companies in the leadership development and executive coaching space. So I pretty much fell into it. And I'll tell you that the pull towards this space was natural for me because I love people. And I think leadership is what sets the tone and the trust of an organization. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, we can't really change it anyways, can we? So tell me a bit more about the problem that you help solving now then, Janet. Like, what is it that you're helping people achieve, basically?
Yeah, so this is what I noticed. So I work with a lot of people who are at the highest levels. They're already successful. So they don't need to learn a framework or a tip. I mean, I'm sure all of that helps. But what they're really, really good at is doing things. So they've mastered their area, they've mastered execution, they're good at strategy. Most of the people I work with, they're very highly accomplished. But what they're not so attuned to, I'm not saying not good at, but not attuned to, is who they're being while they're doing it. So the imprint that they're leaving, the subtle messages that they're leaving in the culture by the way they're looking at people or the way they're interacting with people. And to me, those are the things that we don't teach. We don't teach people, or I don't know, maybe in your education system, but in the education system, it's like we never really think and reflect about who are you being while you're doing. And that has a big impact, I think, on culture, trust, and also on the company's performance.
So, first of all, I agree with you. This is not something that is taught a lot. What I'd like us to discuss is what's the benefits of working on that, on working on culture, on working on leadership development. Like, talk to me like I'm this very high-level CEO that you're helping. How is that going to impact my bottom line?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. You're focused on all the things, but what I find, okay, so here's what I find. What keeps people up at night, and I ask people this question all the time, and it's whether we're going to make our numbers and all of those sorts of things. But often, if you trace back a lot of the problems they're dealing with, it really has to do with people. A lot of the thing, it's like, these people aren't getting along, and they're affecting a product. These people are not doing what I want them to do, or I can keep going on and on. But often, or these 2 executives that work for me don't trust each other. And so now they're at it. I mean, just the other day, I was talking to a new executive that was saying, oh my gosh, my team, I don't trust them. And so those sorts of things are things that really are not solved by pulling out a spreadsheet or, okay, let me figure out a nice and neat solution, because it's messy and it's human. And so that, I believe, is the benefit of doing some inner work on how are you coming across and how are you impacting all of these things that you're dealing with.
That does make sense. Who is it that you're having those conversations with, Janet? Like who do you work with? Do you have a specific industry, niche, job title, even the highest level, but who is that?
Yeah, so not so much in industry. I work across industries. You know, what's really funny, and I'm sure you know this, right? And you probably experienced this, is everybody thinks their industry is very unique and that their problems are unique. But some of these broader leadership issues that I deal with, they're not that unique. They're patterns over and over again, it doesn't matter on the industry. But who I work with are usually people at the top echelons. So either the C-suite or the vice presidents or presidents who are in that orbit, who, like I said, are already very successful. What they're dealing with is that no one tells them the truth. They don't really have a good pulse of what's going on in the organization. And they really haven't spent a lot of time looking in the mirror or having someone hold up the mirror to them honestly, because they're really not getting honest feedback from the organization.
So I like this. So that's clear. So that's clear positioning to me. The issue I always have with this approach, which of course I'm sure you've solved, is
I don't solve anything. I plead the fifth on that one, right?
No, but clearly, I mean, you've built something successful, right, Janet? So where I'm going with this is, I mean, I like to take the analogy of, hey, you need back surgery, right? And you have two options. You have a surgeon who's done 10,000 surgeries. I don't even know if that's possible, but let's assume it is possible.
Right.
10,000 surgeries, and 1,000 brain surgeries, 1,000 heart surgeries, 1,000 knee surgeries, whatever, 1,000 back surgeries as well. So he knows what he's dealing with, or she. And you have another surgeon who's done 10,000 back surgeries. Who are you choosing, and why are you willing to pay a premium to the second one? So when there is always this industry title, vertical agnostic, I'm also like, okay, but then what has worked for you, Janet, to get the attention of those leaders who come and knock at the door to be like, hey, you might be able to help here? I'm not talking about sales just yet.
No, I
talking about attention.
Yeah, brand. No, I totally get it. And it's interesting because, we could talk about sales, because that I have a whole perspective on that in itself. And we can talk about that later. But I totally get what you're saying in terms of specification, right? But see, my expertise is not to solve the back, right? Or the industry. My expertise is helping you figure out what is wrong. And so I'm not a back surgeon or a surgeon, right? So that's not what I'm coming in with. What I'm coming in with is, hey, here's a leadership issue. And that is, it doesn't matter what back you have. I mean, I know I'm not doing a good job at the analogy that you are trying to put it back to your analogy, but my point is, I'm not going to be an expert in, for example, IT. I will never be a rocket scientist, right? Some of the people that I work with are actual rocket scientists. I will never be an expert in that. I will never be that. Some people that I work with are in healthcare. They are doctors, right? They are hospital administrators. I will never be an expert in that. But the problems they're dealing with don't have to do with their technical expertise. I understand the industry enough, right? So I do some research so I can speak their language and those sorts of things. But I'm not trying to teach them anything about their competency. What I'm trying to get them to do is look in the mirror, do the inner work that's necessary in order to put away all of those reactive tendencies you have when you are leading in those environments. So I think it's a little different. So your analogy of the back surgery, is a great one. I don't think it fits in my line of work exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Talk to me about sales then. How do you move the needle from, not using the back analogy, but getting the attention of those leaders that you end up working? So wait, just to clarify something. So who is it that you end up working with, Janet? Because I'm suspecting that there's going to be a decision maker, which is not necessarily the same person as the one you work with,
Right.
which is not the same person as the same team that you end up, getting benefits for. So who's making the decision of saying, Janet, you're the one we are going with?
So the decision usually, usually it's the client itself, the person I'm going to work with, because I usually meet them before they decide that, hey, this is going to be the person, and you've got to have chemistry and it's going to work. But usually it's either a chief human resources officer, the CEO, the sales, sometimes a board member will recommend and say, hey, I know this company that's worked with Janet and I'd like to bring her in, and if you all can meet her. So it really depends on the company and the way it's structured. So all of those above. But what I find is that it really, and I'm going to say this and it's going to sound antithetical, but it's not a sell. What it really is, it's a referral. Almost all my business is from referrals. And somebody will say, because I think at this level, people are not looking, they're not looking in a sales thing, looking for these types of folks. They're looking for people who have used someone like me before and who has had results. So that those results and those referrals are the most important part of the marketing in my world, not the actual, how do I sell somebody in the moment? And, going back to the sales thing is, what I think really makes you successful is not being tied to trying to make a sale. What I'm trying to do is trying to figure out what is needed. And I'm trying to understand and ask questions so that what is needed in that moment, I can tailor that approach. Not, oh, here's my product, here's me, here's what I'm trying to sell you. Because I don't think that works. And I frankly, I don't think I would be good at that. So,
it's relationship building, right?
yes,
At the end of the
absolutely.
day, I'm yet to see a high-ticket professional services firm that doesn't build a relationship before getting into, hey, we might be able to, get into an engagement here. I don't think so. We're not selling widgets. We're not selling cars. It's like building trust, building authority, providing value first, despite what a lot of consultants agree to do. It's like actually taking the time to provide that value first and have an exchange and be like, hey, okay, this is how it works. This is what I think you should be doing. Or like potentially, hey, this is some avenues that you can think of. Food for thoughts. And then you build that trust and that relationship like this. So, of course, sales is a bit of a understatement when we talk about relationship building in consulting firms. But it's more like, how do you move the needle from, hey, I've heard you speak on the podcast, or I've heard, from you because I was asking a friend on how to solve this specific problem, and come from a referral. And how do you move that needle, which I think is relationship building, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. To me, for my practice, and I think it's a little different than if I was offering a consulting service where, I'm going to go in and make an assessment, or I'm going to, do a long-term project. What I'm doing is uniquely, it's intimate. So I'm building a relationship both with the company and with the person that I'm going to be spending time with. And they're going to be telling me some really vulnerable things that they would not like to have shared with people or anyone else. And so in order for that trust to build, I've got to understand the person. And I also have to be genuinely, and this is, you can't fake this, right? Genuinely interested in their growth and who they are and what they're trying to accomplish. And once I think that they see that and understand that, I think that it speaks for itself, right? So that happens. It happens organically. I can't even explain it. I don't even think there's a process. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, 100%. It does make a lot of sense. talk to me about what comes next then, Janet. How do you, and I need to be careful about my words here, how do you, once you start an engagement, right? Once you start helping someone, how do you build the next step with them and the next step and the next step? I'm asking this question in the sense of like, not how do you make the most out of each and every client, but more how do you identify the next problem that you help with and the next problem, and how do you keep the relationship going so that you retain customers longer?
Oh, okay. So retention, right? So
Yeah.
here's what's a little bit unique about, I think, executive coaching than it would be with consulting, because they are different, right? Even though you are you still wear a consulting hat, and I know some coaches will cringe when I say that, because I'll say, coaching is just coaching, but I think both of those things are happening at the same time. When you're doing one and you're doing the other, but they are happening because the person that you're working with is not one-dimensional. But I think what happens, I find at these levels, there are very few people that tell them the truth and hold up the mirror to them and give them constructive feedback, right? In a way that they can hear and that's in service of them. And so I think once at least this is my experience, once they become accustomed and really value that, the retention happens on its own. And I'm not just saying that to be, Pollyanna here. I really do think that that's the retention key, is that the trusted advisor is priceless at those levels.
Are you referring to the book, or is it just?
Yeah, well, it could be the book, right? But yes, that's actually a really good model to think about, right? All of those concepts in that book, but that trusted advisor on some level, that aura of someone that you can talk with at that type of intimate level, who will tell you the truth, is rare.
I'm just like, pinpointing this one because we've had Charles Green on the show talk about this, and
I love that book.
Yeah, it's great, and we are working with Trusted Advisors Associates, so with Noel, who took over the company, so we might be doing something right.
I love it.
Yeah, look, this is a really good. I mean, obviously, beyond that, I really respect what Charles and Noel have built. I think it's solid, and one of the things I say often on the show is that we live in a day and age where anyone can claim anything on the internet. Really, it's not that hard, right, to get ChatGPT or Claude to say whatever, claim whatever. So building that trust is so important in marketing, in sales, and most certainly in retention, which is where the real money is, when you do it right. So
I agree with you, and I think that the underrated skill there that we haven't pointed out, which is really important, is listening. You can't go in with a prescribed script, because this goes back to your back surgery, right? This is where it's different. It's because you don't have a prescription, right? You come in and you're really trying to understand, and you figure out what's needed here. And what's needed here is not it's not a cookie cutter. I take this model and I bring it over here, at least in my work. I've got to figure out now what combination will work for you, and what works for you may not work for the next person. And I think that's the nail that you just hit.
Amen to that. I like your style, Janet, in case people didn't notice so far in the episode. So I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball question at you. What's your number one challenge? What's that one nut that you're trying to crack, that once you crack, you're gonna take the whole thing to the next level? What would that be for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm not sure it's a nut to crack. It's a tension that I feel, right? And I don't know if I'm ever going to crack the code on this. I don't think I'm not confident I will. But the tension that I feel sometimes is the work that I do is very, other than, I also do workshops and group things and all of that. But a lot of the work that I do, so about 65% of it, is one-on-one work with leaders. It's deep. There's a lot of substance to it, and it's intimate. Like, so you're learning a lot about the person, and that takes time, and it takes time to develop. Growth is not, here's the 4 tips and here we go, right? It doesn't work that way, that inner work. So the tension that I sit with is that versus scaling and time. And I don't know if that's really clear, but those things take a lot of time. And, sometimes we need more expedient. And so how do you sit with the tension of expedient? Yes, that's good enough. Let's move now and expand and scale versus, the depth and breadth in these types of engagements. I don't know if that made any sense to you, but it's a tension. That's probably why it doesn't even make sense to me, right? It's a tension between the depth and the breadth, and then the scaling.
Janet, it makes a lot of sense. And I think that's forever problem that executive coaching, high ticket professional services firms, consulting firms are encountering, right? It's, okay, first you need to fix demand. How do you get enough demand for your services? Usually it's by doing a good work and getting more referrals. But then it's like, if you want to expand, maybe having 1-2 acquisition channels. Then it's, okay, we solve demand, but now we cannot supply it. We can always supply it, but the main challenge for high ticket professional services firms is that we can supply it at the level of quality and premium that we would if it was the founder who was delivering. So how do we find, attract, recruit, hire, train, and retain staff members, team members that can deliver at the same level of...
You just said that brilliantly, much better than that. That's exactly what I was getting at. And here's the thing, and then there's another problem that happens, right? Now you got me rolling on this one, but
good.
You become the brand on some level, at least in my work. And then people say, okay, but we want you. And that's a problem, right? So that's shame on me, right? I haven't been able to scale that. So it's not reliant on me. And that, to me, that's another tension right there. Kind of what you just said.
I love this, Janet. I'm going to double click on it because, so I don't love that this is a challenge for you, but I love that we are talking about this because I know this is something a lot of successful boutique consulting firm owners or executive leadership firm owners are struggling with. Just food for thoughts, not necessarily for you, Janet, but for people listening to us, because we've talked about this a lot in our mastermind. What I've seen at PwC, the way I started thinking about it was years after I left PwC, but so many people were talking about this, and I was like, how do they solve for that at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte, the McKinseys and so on?
Yeah.
What I've noticed is that at PwC, same thing, right? You have 2 or 3 partners within a team who have like all the expertise, all the brands. How do they nurture talent so that people want to work with them specifically? So yes, making them featured on the proposal as the expert whatsoever. But that's not all. When I was thinking about it, they were like, as of manager or even senior consultants, when you were developing a deep expertise into a specific system or a specific whatsoever, they would start having you go and talk at panel discussions in certain events. So now the spotlight starts to be on the manager who has subject matter expertise on the specific area that my team at PwC was solving for. Guests on podcast, or even the way we see some of our clients solving this is they have a podcast and they start introducing some of their team members as guests, but also as hosts to interact with the guests. And now this takes time, obviously, right? This doesn't happen overnight. And I think a gentleman who solved that and who's nailed it is Dave Ramsey, right? The Dave Ramsey show.
Oh, yes.
Basically not run by Dave Ramsey anymore, but like step by step, introducing another host that is just, assisting, and then talking at the same level as Dave, and then talking more than Dave, and then Dave just basically taking a backseat position, and then Dave, not all the shows, but starts not being there in the recordings and the talk shows anymore. And step by step, you replace yourself, and people come for the team members, not just for the owners of the brand.
Well, what you just described is the exact thing that we advise our clients to do. So me as a leader, when I'm talking about succession planning and talent management, those are the things, right? Exactly. It's like, it's not you. It's about
Yeah.
your team and bringing out the best in them. But the point, so it's actually really funny. It's a paradox on some level.
And it's, I mean, you got me going now, but it's so interesting because it's how do we build the brand of a business that is human centered in a day and age where personal brand of the founder is so important, but we need to find space and room to incorporate some of our team members in there. How do we incentivize them? Because the risk, if we go even to the next level, is we help them build their brand, and now they're like, well, I'm in demand. Why should I let you keep the margin?
Right.
I'm just gonna be, and that's again thinking about the PwC model is like this is where you make director and partner because now you buy into the firm. And so how do you think about that for your small boutique consulting firm? Well, this is another thing, but like how do you incentivize into the profits your team members who you put the spotlight on them so you retain them as well? And now your company is worth something that you can sell. Rabbit hole. I love this.
But then the other question, wait a minute, the one thing that we didn't say here is do you really even want to do that? So, because I find, I've had the tension of, do I really want to scale like that? And I know a lot of other people in my field are like, I don't really want to scale that way. So it's holding that tension, making a decision. Do you want to scale? Right. And if you do want to scale, then that's a different approach of how you're going to do exactly what you just said versus, no, I'm comfortable with being here and that I'm the face and I'm the brand. Those are two different decisions, I think, that we come to at a decision point.
Absolutely. And so, okay, you're not making my job any easier, Janet, because you get me going in all the directions here. But so you need to start with the end goal in mind, 100%. Like, what do you want to have happen? Cool, let's build from this. So the whole spiel I just gave, and it is a long rant, so I'm going to cut it short, but it's like, okay, if the challenge of you listening to us right now is, okay, how do I keep the depth and the breadth, I think you said, of the quality of the service that I deliver all while scaling, then the problem is how we do exactly that. And one of the ways is spotlight, team members, retention, and so on. Now, if you're perfectly happy where you are, congrats, you've won. Like literally, there is nothing to change. Just keep on doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
And you've won, and this is amazing. Like this is great. I love this.
But what you're highlighting is that it's a decision.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
I love this word. Like, throwing the ball at each other. But the point here is, yeah, exactly. I love this. But so the point becomes, you need to make a decision, and not making a decision is a decision whether you like it or not.
Thank you. Yeah.
And now this becomes, what do you want to have happen? Or I don't know. Let me think about it. I'm like, cool. What has changed over the last 2 years? Nothing. So how long are you going to think about it still? And it's the whole then kind of creating your urgency and making a choice. And the framework that I always use is 10 years from now, 85 years old, Guillaume Jouvencel, what will I regret the most? Doing it or not doing it? And that's usually a good, direction for my decision-making process.
I love it.
Janet, anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to cover in this podcast? Because you got me going here.
No, it's great. That's a great conversation. I think these are really important things. Yeah, the only thing that I think about, right, is I think, and this, I'm really passionate about this, what I'm about to say, is that I think we're living in a very complex and ambiguous time. And with the advent of AI, a lot of the things that I mentioned, the doing, those things can be replaced, right? So you can have somebody create a strategy for you on some level. I mean, and I mean, we could argue about that, but we won't right now. But there's a lot that can be, but I think this notion of presence and self-mastery is going to be enhanced. Mm-hmm. The thing that we considered a soft skill in the past, I think is now going to be a hard skill, because how you show up to people is going to even be more pronounced, because it's going to be, the high touch is going to be more important than ever, I believe. That's just my view of the world. I also think in the age that we're living in, just geopolitical and the whole world, leadership and how you show up and these little nuances are more important too. So I think those things are going to become only more pronounced.
Amen to that. Janet, Ioli, ladies and gentlemen. Janet, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
So LinkedIn is the best place, I think. So my LinkedIn profile, connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can go to janetioli.com and you can find out more about me.
Ioli, I apologize. I said Ioli. Janet Ioli. We'll put all the links in the description. For what I'm concerned, Janet, you've gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me, I'm just adding you. Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this great work. I think it's so important that people hear these messages. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.